Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. We are back once again today with the newest series on my channel, the series that I am most excited about on my channel, and really not even just like the series that I'm most excited about, because I don't even do many series anyway, but just the videos that I am most excited about recording right now, the Rebuilding Blank series. So far we have rebuilt TSM and rebuilt G2, which is these videos overall are just supposed to be kind of overall big discussions, overall big breakdowns, just an overview of what all these teams could do, maybe what I think they should do in this coming offseason. We talk about some more realistic options, we talk about some more crazy options if the teams do actually want to get aggressive, start making some big moves, but how teams can just get better in this offseason and can look to make runs in the future. I think this is really, really fun. I love doing this. I hope you guys do enjoy it as well. So far, the first two videos have done very well on this channel. I hope this series continues to do well. But in the last poll I put up, the team that won was CLG. This is a very, very difficult rebuild. This team is pretty terrible overall, but we're gonna be, giving it my attempt, giving it my overview, giving it my breakdown, my thoughts and opinions in this video today. So definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy it. Again, the support, especially on these videos, means so much to me. I really want these videos specifically to do well, so getting that like would be absolutely awesome. Subscribing to stay up to date on all my latest content, and consider checking out my Patreon, patreon.com/IamGerm. With that being said, let's get right into this. So we're back on the Excel spreadsheet that we've been kind of using for a bunch of different videos and stuff. It's got at the top CLG, what players they have, who's under contract, all of that, and then down below it's free agents, and then on the left we actually have the top 10 academy players as rated by Tim Sevenheisen, and then off the screen to the left I actually have a couple more players that I think should be on CLG's radar. But CLG is very, very interesting. This is a tough rebuild because CLG is in really the worst spot you can be in League of Legends and esports, in any kind of competition, where they finished dead last in the LCS. They were 10th, putting the spring and summer together. They finished as the worst record overall in the regular season, but also their academy team finished 10th in the Academy League as well. So they are pretty terrible in the LCS. They are pretty terrible in Academy. They had 5 veterans on their LCS team, so they really have nothing building towards the future. And if you let your team get to the point where you have the worst LCS team and the worst Academy team, you have bad veterans, you have bad rookies, young players, whatever, that must mean you probably have pretty terrible management as well. I don't think that is like a reach. I don't think that's too crazy or disrespectful to say. You also probably don't have very good coaches. So, CLG has very, very little to work with here. I've been very vocal about saying CLG needs to start over in terms of their management. Their general manager, a lot of the upper management that they have in place is not doing a good enough job. And obviously, I'd be definitely down for them getting a new coaching staff, getting all of that. But in this video today, we're just mostly going to be talking about players. Also, what is interesting is CLG has not really shown too much interest in spending a whole lot of money. So that does make this more difficult. We'll go over some cheaper options, but then we'll also go over some options of if CLG actually wants to decide to start spending some money, which at some point is going to be, critical. But as far as CLG right here, what we do have is Finn locked up until 2023. And then we have Broxa, who's going to be a free agent. Demonte, who's going to be a free agent. Smoothie is going to be a free agent. And then we have Wild Turtle sitting here, locked up until 2022. So really, we can knock these guys out. I'm just going to take these guys off. And this is what CLG is left with. They don't have a ton of valuable assets. They don't have a ton of guys like that they'll even be able to sell off and get a bunch of money to maybe use to buy some people. So that is where this gets tough. That is where this gets interesting. And as far as kind of some of the goals for CLG, my number one goal with this team is find some youth. Talented youth, preferably. But right now, the fact that the CLG starting roster was 5 veterans, Finn, being maybe a little bit younger, but 5 veterans, 5 guys who have played in a lot of competitive League of Legends in the LEC and the LCS. The fact that they had no one young, no one building towards the future, I think is absolutely disgusting. I think is absolutely terrible, because if you're going to be dead last anyway, if you're going to suck, why not suck trying to get better, trying to build for the future? Weird. So definitely find some youth, spend some money, maybe, and then also there is a potential of maybe make a big splash, because CLG's roster, it was a bunch of veterans, but it was guys who had not found success and maybe were even the reason that their other teams had not found success. Finn was scapegoated at Rogue, and that's why he got kicked. Broxa was scapegoated at TL. They had DeMonte and Pobelter, who it's not like they saw a bunch of success on their other teams. They have Wild Turtle, who, yeah, he had some success last year with FlyQuest, but he was seen as the weak link on FlyQuest. Now, obviously, they had Solo in the top lane as well, but it's not like people were like, oh, Wild Turtle's popping off right now. Same thing with Smoothie. So even though they went out and made some kind of big moves, they got some kind of big names, it was mostly people heading downwards in their career. Most people that they're, over the hump. Most people that are maybe even a little bit washed up. So, there is a world where CLG could sign some more veteran players, but how about let's actually get some decent veteran players? Let's get some exciting veteran players. Let's get some interesting veteran players. But I think CLG at the very, very least needs to go make one big splash, whether it's on a big rookie for people to be excited about, or for a big, free agent or buyout or whatever for people to be excited about. So let's get into this. Let's start talking about some potential lineups for CLG. Now, as far as the players they have here, Finn, I think keeping him and building around him, I think is pretty fine overall, because he wasn't amazing, he wasn't great, but he also wasn't horrible. He had some bad games, he had some good games. I think he can be solidly a middle-of-the-pack top laner in the LCS, and I think that's fine, especially for the 10th place team in CLG. They have him locked up for 2 more years, so, they're not really just going to kick him at this point. I don't really think they're going to sell him off to anyone that's going to buy him either. And then with Wild Turtle, you could replace him, but you also could keep him. I know I'm talking about going young. I'm talking about finding good young talent, and if it's an 80 carry, that's fine. But also, I do understand that you want to have some veterans, you want to have some experienced players to be able to help your young players, to be able to coach them up, to be mentors for them, for all of that, and just to have some structure on your team, so your team isn't just a bunch of people who have no idea what's going on, kind of running around, making things crazy. So if you have 2 veterans in Finn and Wild Turtle, and you get 3 young, promising players, I don't really think that would be, all that horrible. So when I'm looking at, a lot of these free agents, I don't really think any of them too much are that interesting to CLG. I think it's time for them to move on from Broxa, especially because he takes up an import slot. I was not that impressed with him this year. I don't think they're bringing back Pobe. I hope they don't bring back DeMonte. I could see them doing it, but I don't think they should. Smoothie, obviously, I think they need to move on from him. But support is honestly pretty shallow in North America, so I don't know exactly what they're going to do in terms of the support situation. I don't really see Acadian as a guy they're going to be looking at. Afro and Dardoch, I don't really think should be on their radar. Santorin, I think is going to play on a good team. Jizuke, could he be an interesting option for them? Could they use that second import slot to, actually land Jizuke and then kind of build a young team around that? I think it's possible. I think it could be something that might possibly happen. I think it would be an interesting move. Then obviously you're left with needing to go make a, kind of find a new young jungler, because obviously Jizuke is another one of these guys that is not young, is not, a guy that's really building towards the future too much. So then that'd be, when we take a look at this top 10 list, we have NXI, we have Will, and we have, I believe there's one more jungler. Oh, yeah. So if they wanted to go really young, you have NXI and Will. If you also wanted to go with a buyout, you have a guy like Contract, who I think would actually be pretty interesting for this team, because I do think that Evil Geniuses is going to be looking to sell off Contracts. He's a guy who we've seen in the LCS before, but I think he would be more exciting, more promising than anyone else CLG has currently. So I don't think going out and getting Contracts would be all that big of a deal. But again, does CLG want to actually spend money? Would they be able to buy out NXI? NXI is the FlyQuest Academy jungler. Will is the Dignitas Academy jungler, I want to say, or Contract. Are they actually going to buy any of these guys out? I don't know. If not, then you start digging to the even further down the list. You start looking into, maybe junglers who didn't do so well in Academy. You look into maybe junglers who are like in amateur, stuff like that, and it gets really, really rough. As far as supports, I do not think there's a ton of amazing options as support. I mean, as far as like the young players, I don't really see anyone standing out a ton to me. No one on this top 10 list for Tim. There's guys like Zazel, but this is the same situation, maybe washed up, kind of veteran player. So I wouldn't really go there. You also have, obviously Biofrost is going to be back in the mix. Like maybe I could see him returning to CLG. I would rather see him return to CLG as a coach. One guy I do think is interesting is Pune as a potential buyout candidate for CLG? You know, could they potentially get that done? That would at least give them some young, promising player to build around. You know, if they did have Jizuke, that would give them a chance to be better in the meantime, so they don't just finish 10th place every split. And then they'd potentially have two young, more exciting, less experienced players in their jungler and support to maybe start building around. I think that could be pretty cool. I think that could be pretty interesting. I think this whole situation works out as well with a Power of Evil in the mid lane as a potential buyout candidate from TSM. Now, do I think this is likely going to happen? No, I don't. Obviously, Power of Evil's already been on CLG before. I don't know how their relationship is, especially now that CLG is kind of a bottom of the barrel team, but if TSM does decide to import a mid laner, Power of Evil could potentially be a buyout candidate. Now, I'm sure he wouldn't be super excited about going to a bottom of the barrel team, but again, we know he likes his money, the old Power of Euro memes and stuff like that. If he is a resident, this could maybe be the start of something new and exciting for CLG, but I think this is way, way, way less likely. I think Jizuke is a more realistic option, but honestly, I think either one of them is pretty unrealistic. Now, some of the more interesting kind of buyouts I do think that could happen. You have this weird situation with 100 Thieves where they have a bunch of these players that are young, really, really hyped up prospects. You know, like there is obviously Kenvi would be an amazing guy to have, and Closer's been popping off for 100 Thieves. So it makes it more and more likely that 100 Thieves is going to want to hang on to Closer and going to want to sell off Kenvi at some point. Could CLG be the guy to grab him? Could that be somebody they built around? Yeah, that could be interesting. That's definitely an option. But again, that's going to be very, very expensive. There's also Jojo Pune in the mid lane, who's another very, very hyped up and exciting prospect. But again, he's going to be expensive. And exactly how much money does CLG want to spend? How much money are they going to be throwing around? I don't know. So this is where I think a very, very interesting option becomes Five Fire, because he is actually not currently signed to an academy team. He is a free agent. He is an interesting prospect. He's number 9 on Tim's list. Now, is he LCS ready? I don't know. I think most people would probably argue he's not LCS ready at this point, that he probably needs some more amateur academy time, whatever. But he would at least be a cheap option that would fit into CLG's budget if they are trying to be, you know, stingy with money and stuff. And it could be potentially something that works out from them. And then still, I think Pune is a really, really good option at support. If you do think support is really, really weak and you do need to bring back a guy like Smoothie or something, at that point, I would say you really need to kick Wild Turtle, because I'm not trying to have Smoothie and Wild Turtle and Finn all on the same team for CLG. And then you start to get into, you know, what are your AD carry options as far as some of these young players. I believe here we have Prismal as an AD carry. We have Tomo as an AD carry. So maybe either one of those guys could be interesting as a potential buyout target. You also have Luger in the mix here as a potential buyout. If CLG does want to kick Turtle, if they do want to keep Smoothie, if they don't feel like the support options are very, very good. And, you know, you could end up with a team like this, which, again, would this team be great in the LCS? I don't think so. They could finish 10th. I could very well see that. But at least they would be finishing 10th, working towards something, building up some young players, building towards the future. Because, again, they already finished 10th this year. Who cares if they finish 10th again? The spot that CLG is in right now is going to be very, very difficult to climb out of. They're not just going to... they could potentially buy out some veterans and finish like 6th or 7th next year or something like that, but they're not going to be competing for titles just magically overnight. They're going to have to suck for probably a year, if not 2 more years. So if you're going to have to suck anyway... at least make that sucking worth something. At least be going towards a better future. At least be building towards a better tomorrow. Also, another very, very interesting scenario I do think is, you know, potentially buying out some other mid lane options. I know this isn't going to be very, very popular. I know people aren't going to love this, but again, if CLG wants to go cheap, there is Ryoma. Now, I am not a big Ryoma fan. I think he is not the future at all. I do think he has been very, very underwhelming for 100 Thieves. But again, for a team like CLG, who wants to be cheap, that maybe wants a younger player, that maybe wants a less experienced player, I honestly would rather be rolling out Ryoma than Demonte and Pobelter. That's just me, but again, I think Ryoma has more potential. Like, yes, Demonte and Pobelter are both probably better than Ryoma. They're pretty damn close. Sometimes Ryoma can be better than them, but Ryoma, there is at least a chance of him developing into something better. I know that one is going to be very, very unpopular, but the one that I think is actually very interesting is potentially going for a Soligo buyout from Dignitas, because For whatever reason, Dignitas did not want to play Soligo at the end of the season, and I think he could be a very, very interesting option for CLG because I think Soligo is pretty damn good. I think he should be playing on Dignitas, but for whatever reason, they decided to go with Yusui, and I think this could be a buyout for CLG that could potentially work very, very well for them. I think this could be a very, very good option. So in the end, if I had to do something for CLG, I think I would end up going with something like this. This would probably be, I would definitely go with Pune at support. I think this team for CLG of Finn, Contracts, Soligo, Wild Turtle, and Pune is a nice mix of young and veteran talent. I think it's a better team than they were fielding at the end of 2021. Again, I don't think this is like a playoff team. I could definitely see this team finishing 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th in the LCS. But again, I think this team, give them a year, give them 2 years, start building up towards something. Maybe one of these players will develop into something good that CLG can either build around for the future, maybe make the playoffs, maybe compete for a title eventually, or at the very, very least, have a player worth a damn to be able to sell off to another team and get some money, because obviously they care about money. If they're not interested in spending it, they would like to be making it. So maybe this gives them an opportunity there. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. This is my thoughts and opinions, my breakdown, my rebuilding effort into CLG. It's very, very difficult. There's not a lot to work with here. But I think we at least came up with some interesting options. I think we at least talked about some cool scenarios. And hopefully this video is interesting to you. Definitely drop a like if you guys did enjoy it. I would appreciate it so, so much. I love all the kind of just support on these videos. It means so, so much to me. Leave a comment down below. What would your CLG 2022 lineup look like? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.